Ethan Evans, thank you. We're doing our first AMA. Super exciting with Ethan. I don't know, I'm coming through double there on your end. Do you hear me? Any duplication? Ethan?
I do not. No, I don't hear you. Double.
Okay.
No echo, no problem.
All right. Well, I can manage it, so that's fine. So, Ethan, we were just talking about hockey and how the sports kind of change back and forth. We'll give folks about 5 minutes before we get started. We'll be live on LinkedIn. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Thanks so much for folks joining, and we'll kick things off in a couple minutes here. There we go. Perfect. So we were talking about football. We're talking about hockey, how the shift happens when you cross the border between the U.S. and Canada.
Yep.
But in terms of your favorite sports, what are you looking at in terms of? I feel like skiing the skiing close to your heart there.
Yeah, I ski a lot. This year so far hasn't been too kind on the snow conditions, but I like to ski. It's a way to be outside. I love being outside. So hockey's really my only indoor sport.
Yep.
But I love anything outdoors in a sense. And so skiing gets me out in the mountains 20, 30 days a year. And I like that.
Nice.
My summer equivalent is backpacking or hiking. So anything in the mountains. And then, if we talk about a professional or a team sport, because I play hockey, I'm really into ice hockey.
Right. Okay. Well, looks like folks are piling in here, so we'll get started here. I'll have a couple of quick things to get, and then we'll get to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. So there we go. Welcome, folks. So this is an AMA with Ethan Evans, former VP at Amazon. We've got a really interesting background. We'll introduce him in a second. I wanted to just make a quick shout out and thanks to Workleap, our partners on this AMA. And we have Sarah from Workleap who's going to be in the chat. She's going to be moderating. She acts as a trusted advisor to leaders and employees at Workleap, leveraging our experience in coaching and aligning to work, careers, and organizational impact. So she'll be in the chat, helping out with questions and whatnot. And we're basically good to go. So if you're new to this, any of the questions you want to ask Ethan, we'll be monitoring in the comment section of LinkedIn and YouTube. So audience questions are going to come first. We're good. We've got probably about 16 questions from members that couldn't make it, but they wanted to ask questions, so they submitted them ahead of time. And I'll be keeping an eye out on those questions from the whole time. So this isn't necessarily a keynote speech. This is a conversation. This is really exciting. And we're gonna continue the discussion afterwards as well. For the next couple of weeks, any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer will be showing up at the end. So with that, let's get things kicked off. And Ethan, thanks for being a part of this today. I would love for you to give an introduction of yourself to the community.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Thank you for the introduction, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share. As you said, my name's Ethan Evans. I'm a retired vice president from Amazon. I was there 15 years for the last half of my career. Before that, I was in startups. And at Amazon, I'm best known for starting Amazon Video, what became Prime Video, as well as then working for the Twitch gaming subsidiary and building Prime Gaming, the gaming pillar of Prime. Along the way there, I led teams of about 800 people, so pretty large scale around the world. And over time, I found my interest was more and more in helping my people develop. Selling people movies is fun, but doesn't really change the world. And I wanted to do more to work with helping people grow in their careers, feel successful, be satisfied. And I was very frustrated by people who I thought were very talented, but slamming their heads against some sort of wall I could see, but apparently they couldn't. And so eventually I left Amazon to train and teach people how to navigate sort of the corporate world. And that's what I do today.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome. I'm getting a couple notes, Ethan, that folks in the chat are hearing an echo when I'm talking. Is there any way you can pop in headphones or anything like that?
Sure. That'll just take a sec.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird. It didn't show up when we did the test a couple seconds ago. But as you mentioned, today is the day where things can kind of go a little bit sideways. But this seems like a minor fix.
Yeah, no problem. For a tech viewpoint, when I joined Riverside, I said I was not using headphones.
Okay.
So I don't know if this will
right thing.
Yeah, I don't know if this will kill it. But let's find out.
Let's see.
Okay.
No.
Better? Worse?
How are we? How are you, chat? We in a good place? All right.
I don't think that will have changed it yet. Hang on.
Nice. All right. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Looks like chat is saying we're in a good place now.
Yeah, I switched my speakers to the headphones, so that should cut any chance for an echo.
Perfect. All right, let's kick things off. So, given your experience and your background, what's your favorite thing that you've watched on Amazon Prime?
I'm a sci-fi guy, so even though a lot of people bag on it, I mean, it's true. I like the Lord of the Rings series they've done.
Nice.
I understand there's 50 problems with it if you're a Tolkien fanatic, but in the end, like badass elves running around chopping things up works for me.
Yeah.
When I first started working in the movie and television industry, I had to learn a lot about how films were made. And I realized, I always say it, I watch movies, I don't view films. Like if you're viewing a film and like looking at the cinematography and dissecting the acting and the directing as it's happening, it's a very different experience than if you're just like kicking back and watching a movie.
Yeah.
And I'm a movie watcher, but I hung out with a lot of people who were film goers.
Right.
And, because like my, one of my office mates, his father had run a Hollywood studio and had directed a bunch of the Alfred Hitchcock movies, like the super classic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Famous family. The grandfather, I guess, did the Alfred Hitchcock movies. The father did a bunch of famous TV shows. And then I was working with the son, who had also done some Hollywood stuff before coming to Amazon. They just watch films completely differently. Like, oh, the actress Mr. Q and the lighting here. And I just,
okay. Yeah.
And all this meta.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know, man, that's a big sword. What's he going to do with that dragon? And I admit, I sort of enjoy the more casual, but I can drop into the like, let's look at everything that's going on in the scene. Why, like you have decor behind you. And
yeah.
I can see in one corner, there's a figure that looks like maybe Lawrence of Arabia or something. And, well, in a film, you'd be asking, why did the director put that art up there? What are they subtly trying to communicate about Martin?
Yeah.
From those are album covers, right?
Yeah, there's more than one way to watch a movie.
Yeah.
And but you're saying you're the more casual, like you're not overthinking it. You're there to have a good time, when I
watch a movie, I'm there to relax, not to like have to study every frame.
Yeah, it's not homework. Yeah.
Right.
Cool. And next question here. So I was on your LinkedIn profile and I appreciated your 30-year-old ski pant analogy that you've repaired a couple of times. How would you translate avoiding sort of like the disposable mindset into business and leadership?
Hmm. Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know that story, I had a pair of ski pants that I just nursed along through 30 years and probably well beyond where I should have. They had tape all over them to hold them together. And I finally threw them out, but I was making the point that uh, if you want to accumulate wealth, you can't just replace everything that annoys you. Um,
Right.
so I think translating that to a business mindset, I think some people really hurt themselves through impatience. Um, I'm a very impatient person and I wanted to grow in my career at all times, but there is like a certain pacing to a career. And uh, I always tell people if you're really impatient, found your own business because you can always promote yourself straight to CEO from any level, right? As long as you can make it stick, as long as you have the skills to pull it off, no matter what you do, no matter what level you're at, the CEO gig is open tomorrow. It's going to be at your own company.
Yeah.
And whether that company is, you raise venture capital and it's a true company, or it's like what I do where I now work for myself, you can be the top dog tomorrow. But in a corporate setting, your managers want to see some proof. Even if you're good, they have this question, well, is Ethan really good or did he just get lucky on that project?
Yeah.
And the thing that hurts us is we always assume that as soon as we get something right, we're like, see, I've got it mastered. You should see that. And the other person, you can't hold it against them if they're a little bit like, well, maybe. How about you do it twice more and then we'll know for sure. I think that's the analogy to the 30-year pants, which is um, be a little bit patient about the fact other people are going to need to see it a couple times before they believe in you.
Mm.
And that kind of investment, that kind of patience. Now, where I say don't be patient is if your boss is like, yeah, there's no place for you to move up here. We don't need anything. We're not growing. I don't believe in you. Those kinds of messages are different. But if they believe in you and say, look, we're just looking for give it a little time and it will happen. I think people move too quickly when they get frustrated there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And just friendly reminder, folks, if you do want to ask a question, just drop into the chat, and I'll make sure to answer it coming up. Um, in a lot of your conversations and in your writing, you talk about gut feel. Would love to kind of get a sense from you where you feel that comes from, or what's the origin of it from your perspective, or how it manifests for you and how you see it.
Yeah, so it's interesting, there is some science that gut feel is a real thing in the sense that our whole nervous system is wired together, and like the gut has the most neurons of anything except the brain. So it is like potentially that people don't understand one way or the other, and I'm not claiming to be a scientist on it, but there is a theory that it really is a brain extension. Like gut feel is
Yeah.
real. That said, gut feel is, I think of it more as being subconscious. Simply that it's the manifestation of what your subconscious brain knows. And there's a lot more science around the difference between how our conscious and unconscious minds process things. Consciously, like you've asked me a question, and my conscious brain is thinking about that and thinking about how to answer you. But if we change the topic, my subconscious brain would keep working on it while we talked about something else.
Yeah.
And later I could come back and find new thoughts. So uh, I think of what you're asking about gut feel as your intuition, and you build it through experience. I think it's pretty clearly built. The brain is a giant pattern matching machine. I think it's very clearly built up by having seen a lot of things. This is why, I have one of my clients asking me a couple days ago. He's a young hot shot with a PhD who has founded his own company, and he's maybe 30, like very young. He's got investors who are more my age, and they're frustrating him because they want more paperwork and they want more process. And he's like, how, basically asking me, what's the most polite way I can blow these guys off? And I told him, well, remember, all the paperwork and bureaucracy they want is probably not valuable. But the wisdom they bring from having another 20 or 30 years of experience in leadership, you might want to find a way, like, how do you keep them happy on the paperwork with as little work as possible so that you can benefit from the experience, because they've seen things you haven't. And I think that's where gut feel comes from, is seeing a bunch of patterns that then your body or your subconscious puts together behind the scenes. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it to your point, like it's a collective experience boiled into, just gives you just a faster response to a certain extent. So it's effectively data driven from the past almost. And as you've talked about it on other podcasts and in some of your writing, it's and from sort of like a leadership and management perspective, what would you if you had to remove it, gut feel from, one area of performance decisions, which one would you remove it from? Would it be sort of like hiring? Would it be firing? Would it be promoting? Which one do you feel like gut feel serves the least in those moments?
Well, gut feel is a double-edged sword, in that another word for gut feel in some ways can be bias.
Yeah.
And so the danger is gut feel is going to respond strongly to who are you comfortable with, who do you like, who feels like your people, like your tribe. And that can then mislead to where people who have different performance, who get things done differently than you, trigger this alien, not my tribe response, and can have you look past that person's actually brilliant, even though they do everything differently than I would, and I hate it. I also can recognize that I hate how they do it and I love the results. That's got to be a conscious thing, because your gut will be like, oh, I feel this antipathy. So I definitely have friends and colleagues who their results are amazing and their approach sets my teeth on edge. And I think that's where you have to look past gut feel, if you can. I thought you were actually going to ask the reverse question, which is, can you trust your gut? Is that a good idea?
I mean, let's double click on that.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you can trust your gut, and it's a good way to move faster.
Yeah.
A lot of professionals fear being wrong, and I get that. Nobody likes to be wrong. Nobody likes to be shown they were wrong, for sure, in public. Like, oh, you screwed that up. But the result is they wait and wait and wait. There's a lot of accusation. Management can't make a decision. And the reason is the person's trying to avoid being wrong.
Yeah.
I think you can trust your gut more. If I had career success, in part, it was because there's a funny quote I like, which says, I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt. And I kind of lived my life that way.
I dig that.
Where I would charge forward. And yeah, sometimes I was wrong.
Yeah.
But charging forward let me find out I was wrong, and then fix it faster than if I'd sat around trying to sort of wait all the time to be sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, so I encourage people, jump into a decision a little bit when you're uncomfortable. If you wait until you're comfortable, you'll be too slow.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I'm almost triggered by that as an idea, because I've waited so long on some decisions in my life, and I can just I guess that's what regret is, because you're like, I knew the answer, I felt it, and then I listened to safety instead, as opposed to taking a risk, because that's what we're usually avoiding as humans. Jennifer's asked, what's a signal that leaders often overvalue when assessing performance or potential in a person?
Oh, yeah. So There's a few, but they all come down to what a form of executive presence. In other words, they overvalue your ability to make an impression, your ability to speak, your ability to sound like you have conviction, your ability to sound decisive. The number 1 and 2 traits people associate with executive presence, when you tear apart what that term means, is confidence and decisiveness. Well, I just said I have this trait. I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt. My wife makes fun of me because she says, Ethan, sometimes you say things to me and you have this voice of God conviction. Like, I have come down from the mountain, Martin, and I have truth to share with you. Yeah. And lo, it is not going to rain today. And of course, it's pouring outside. Yeah. What people overvalue are those signals. We are, for whatever reason, naturally drawn to leaders who speak quickly, not at a high pace, but who jump right in. Yeah. Because they look like they know. Yeah. And they sound like they know. And there's all these things that go with it. It's, of course, associated with people who are taller. It's associated with men. But even if we get away from those traits and we just look at deeper voices get more credit, and speaking first. There's this interesting research project that's been repeated many times where they sit a set of people in a room to solve math problems. And they have them all work on the math problem together. And then at the end, they do a survey, who was smartest, who contributed the most. And over and over and over, it's whoever spoke first gets more credit than whoever was right. And that drives the people who were right, or the people who think of themselves as, I'm very thoughtful and I don't speak until I'm sure. Yeah. It drives them crazy, the idea that the person who babbles on and is wrong will be seen as more effective than they were when they were eventually right, but it's still true. So that's what leaders overvalue. To answer Jennifer's question, is they overvalue presence like mine. Yeah. I've capitalized on that, but that's true.
And I kind of want to talk about the capitalization of it, just on this part, in the sense that, if, let's just, for the simplest terms, call perception is reality kind of deal. So if perception is reality and you're the first to speak, but you're wrong, but everybody is like going with like, oh, Ethan's right, he was the first to speak, he came down from the mountain, we all believe what he's saying. It's an overvalued trait. Is there a juxtaposition, or do people have to just say to themselves and train themselves like, hey, maybe it's not the first person that speaks that has the best idea? Like, how would you counteract that sort of like broken system?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways I'd counteract it. First, I worked with Jeff Bezos, the original founder and CEO of Amazon, a bunch. And one thing he did is he instituted a system where most of our major decisions began with a written document. Yeah. And so everyone would read the document, and that took away public speaking ability as a differentiator. Oh. Now, writing quality was still a part of it. His point, he began, like every company does, with meetings that were in PowerPoint. And he makes a point that you may not realize because the name is so well known, but the whole name PowerPoint, it's about making powerful points. and it was originally a sales tool. It was developed in the very beginning to sell things. Yeah. So PowerPoint is, how do I make my powerful points to sell you an idea? And I'm like distilling and restricting everything to a few words on a screen, these big, bold titles. Ethan, former executive, now coach, teaches career success. Well, if that's what's on the screen, you have a picture of me that's hard to get out of. Nothing in that, tells you more about me, tells you about my weaknesses. I'm controlling the whole framing. So as a leader, if you want to get away from some of this, going to writing can be one way. Asking others in the room their opinions and withholding judgment can be a way. And I think the last way that Jeff used, though, is when he was reading. He once said after every sentence, he would stop and ask himself, do I believe this? In other words, this person has made a claim. Yeah. Do I believe it? Do I believe it? Do I believe it? And he was, now that sounds exhausting to me. But that level of skepticism of, okay, this person just said with their voice of God, we should go that way. What do I think about that?
Yeah.
And that was a way to get distance, I think, from being sold things.
Yeah. No. We've got another question from Nicole here. She's saying, what advice do you have for an individual contributor that has been working towards a promotion with the goal of visibility who has a new manager, formerly at Google for 12 years as an engineering manager, who wants to use a private one-on-one doc for a task and use only one-on-one weekly meetings for task items and assignments and check-in, and refuses to use Jira, Slack, Confluence, or any other shared space for assignment and tracking? So it sounds like a question more in terms of like working styles and collaboration. So
yeah, it sounds like, if I understood the question, the heart of the question correctly, they're having trouble getting the manager to use any of the one-on-one time about the future, and it's all tactics.
Yeah.
I do think asking the manager 2 questions. Look, it's always good to ask questions. And I think you can tell your manager, I'd love to figure out how to discuss my career development with you some. How can we carve out time for that in our one-on-ones? Can I provide any of this status tracking in another form to give us that time? Or is there another way we can do that? You can let the manager give their opinion. I always love to ask a question that's got a suggestion, like, can we do this? Or is there another way you want to accomplish my goal? That way it doesn't feel like I'm cornering them, but I'm also not allowing them. I'm doing what's called in sales, presuming the close. Mm-hmm. What I'm doing is presuming that we're going to find a way to talk about my career. And as opposed to that being yes or no, you have a choice, which is add time to our one-on-ones or tell me another way. And there isn't a third choice of, I'm not going to talk about your career. We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
It is hard. Tactically driven, managers who are earlier in their career or haven't developed advanced skills, different skills, they're not talking about your task items because they're trying to avoid helping you develop in your career. They're stuck in, I need to get all these tasks done for my boss in order to be viewed as successful. And the only way I know to do that is use my time with you to figure out if you're on track. So It's like a fear-driven response.
Yeah.
So I guess the point is, don't see it. You probably see it as like they're avoiding me or they're micromanaging me. And they are to some degree, but it's not driven by anything about you. It's about them. Yeah. And so how do you get them out of that to think bigger? The last thing I would say is, unfortunately, you can't control your manager. You can ask your manager to change, but another good thing to do is ask yourself, if this never changes, what might I do differently? How would I go about this differently? If it's going to be this way forever, what are my choices? Is it change manager? Is it live with it? Is it, something else completely?
That's I need to ask myself that question more often. It's just like, hey, if the current state is not something I'm happy with, how long am I willing to tolerate it? And if I'm not willing to tolerate it for 6 months, why would I tolerate it for a week, etc.?
And there are sometimes some reasons to tolerate it for 6 months.
That's fair.
If you have a belief that something's going to change, or you have another personal circumstance, like accepting stasis can be okay, but it should be a conscious choice.
Yeah.
This is my best call for right now.
Yeah.
Generally, I'm with you that a great question to ask that's related is not only why would I accept it, but then what am I going to do about it? Am I going to work on my resume? Am I going to build different skills? Am I going to try and drive a change in my environment internally, which you can often do?
Yeah.
Remember, managers mostly just want to succeed themselves. So if you're struggling with your manager, begin with asking, what are they struggling with that I can help them get over? Because it's usually not that they are like, I want to ignore you. It's that they're feeling pressure from their own boss, and can you get them out of that?
Yeah, no, awesome things I learned, probably a few the hard way, but no, helpful advice. The Adams asked, when you look at leaders who scale well after an early success, what do you see them stop doing that others struggle to let go of?
Yeah, so there's a book, its title is What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. And I kind of think of that as the reference work for people making this transition. And the point is, we all got where we are, I'm sure everyone in the audience, through hard work and high achievement. You went to college, you probably went to a good competitive college. You worked hard to get, depending on which system you're in, you'd call them good grades or high marks. You learned that by doing the work, you got the grade. And then as a new person in a workplace, as an individual contributor, you did the work, you got the good review. It was the same system. Like if I did a lot of good work, I generally got a positive review. Where that breaks down is as a manager, suddenly it's not about your personal work anymore. Particularly once you become a manager of managers or have a little bit larger team, no matter how good you are and how hard you work, you're not going to do more work than the 10 or 20 people on your team.
Yeah.
And so it's about getting their work to be effective, efficient, etc. The other thing I would say, and that's the change, is I got where I am by being awesome myself. And now I have to start looking at how do I make these people around me awesome? And my new awesome is not what I do, or it's not nearly as much what I do. It's what they do. And I was definitely most successful when I got a team under me that basically didn't need me anymore. Like I could float around, and I spent my time investing in them or fighting for them. But to just get the daily work done, they didn't need me at all. They knew they were perfectly capable. And that's a leader is going to succeed when they can get away from, I have to do it myself. Like if we look back at the previous question, and that person is using the whole 101 to audit everything you're doing.
Yeah.
They're still trying to control all the work themselves.
Yeah.
Tell me where this is, Martin. Tell me where that is. Did you dot the I? Did you cross the T? The founder of the Dilbert cartoon, Scott Adams, died, I think, yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So no more Dilbert. Rest in peace, Dilbert. But there's one spot where the pointy-haired boss is standing over Dilbert's shoulder shouting, click it, click it. It's just like
micromanagement.
Right. And nobody wakes up in the morning and says, well, I want to be a micromanager.
No.
They're doing it because they don't know another tool, and they're used to doing that work themselves. They're used to having their hand on the mouse and clicking it, and they can't let go. That's the biggest thing that stalls early success, because the early success probably came from being an expert yourself.
Yeah. 100%. We've got another one here. So really active chat today. Thank you. I'll try to get to as many as we can. Nyla is asking, I've earned credibility across teams and people seek my input even without a senior title. How can I move up to the next level without waiting for the title to catch up? So it sounds like there's like a gap in terms of like she's being utilized and seen as that. So you know the question.
Yeah. And I love this question. First, I want to congratulate the person. One of the hallmarks I give of influence. How do you know if you're influential? You're influential when people come and ask your opinion when you're not involved. When they're like, hey, we really want Martin in the room, or Niall we really want this person in the room for this decision. Yeah, they're not going to work on the project, but like their brain is good. Get them here. That's influential, right?
Yeah.
So you're in a great spot. Number one, I would say lean into that role. Even if it costs you some time, it makes you work a little longer. Anytime you get one of those invites, if you can, say yes to it, because ultimately the title will catch up to the value, and you'll be learning things and building network. You'll be getting to know other people. You'll be spreading that reputation based on your good work, your good insights. And so I would say first, try not to be resentful, if you are at all, of sort of being asked to do things that you're not currently being acknowledged for in terms of results. Instead, lean into it and trust that the results will come. The second thing then is I would go ask those questions of your leadership and say, hey, always ask them positively if you can. You ask it in the form, I'll pretend you're my boss or someone in my organization, Martin. I would say, Martin, I am so thrilled that I consistently get invited, to the strategy meeting and the annual planning meeting. That's great. And I feel like I'm contributing. It seems like you do as well. How can we make that more formal, or how can we translate that into my career progress?
Yeah.
But I've expressed gratitude and I've called out the thing that people are valuing. And if I need to go deeper, I would, prompt you with things like, Martin, it seems like your peers are valuing my advice and requesting me in these meetings. It's probably a win for both of us if I take on a more senior role where they see you as having a great person who can stand in for you sometimes. How do we make that happen? So I'm trying to give you a what's in it for you, as well as sort of compliment you for your tutelage.
Yeah.
A great way to, I never want people to lie or just flatter, but anytime I can say something positive about you before a request, I'm more likely to get, if I can make you feel good about something you're legitimately good at, you're more likely to then feel like doing something for me. So I often teach people this in terms of asking someone to mentor. So rather than just saying, will you be my mentor? Which is basically, Martin, will you do a bunch of work for me?
Yeah.
Will you take on an obligation?
Yeah.
I would instead come to someone like you and say, Martin, I see you host this very successful podcast across multiple platforms. I'm trying to learn how to do that. I'm a good public speaker, but I don't run a podcast right now. You seem to really have it dialed in. Would you have a couple of quick meetings with me to tell me what you've learned?
Yeah. I see what you did there.
Right. I've just been like, you're so good at this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing I did that, because people often ask about the mentor thing, I didn't ask you to be my mentor. I asked you a couple quick meetings on this topic. And the reason that's easier to say yes to is, one, you probably feel like, oh, I do know some things about that, so I know what to do. And two, he's only asking for a little bit of my time, not this ongoing life commitment.
Yeah.
But then what I do later, I have a plan. So let's say we have these meetings and I'm going to come prepared. I'm going to listen attentively and I'm going to give you feedback like, okay, I've understood this, this, and this. I'm going to go try it. And I'm going to make myself a good student for those couple meetings. And that's when I'm going to hit you with the mentorship request. At the end of that, I'm going to say, man, you've taught me so much about podcasting. I realize I could probably learn other things from you. Would you be open to continuing our relationship with an occasional meeting? And of course, by this time, you know me and I've been a good student.
Yeah.
It's harder to say no to someone you know.
Yeah.
And it's also easier. Again, I've like eased it in because you've had a good relationship, presumably, right? I've been a good student, and if we don't click, the other thing is great about it. If I ask you to be my mentor and then we don't click, we're kind of stuck with each other. Like I either have to quit you or you have to fire me.
Yeah.
The great thing about the requesting a couple meetings is, if, no offense, I find you to be a relatively useless teacher, I can thank you at the end of the couple meetings and we both go away thinking it was good, or at least you do. And I'm not stuck, right?
Yeah.
So going all the way back to this person who has influence, I would say have those chats with your leaders about, it seems like my influence or my expertise is helping us get more value.
Yeah.
Another great question. How do we make that a bigger part of my formal job so that I can provide you and the company more of that value?
Yeah.
Right. And again, there's something in there. How do we make it? I'd like to provide more of this strategic value, but I have all these low-level tasks. How can we migrate me to a role where I have more time? It's not how do you promote me, it's how do you migrate me to a role where I can deliver more of this value.
Yeah.
Implied that's going to be a higher title, more pay. So
it comes naturally as a result of it, but ultimately you're saying like you're not getting as much as you can because I'm working on these other tasks and you're appreciating all these other things that I do.
Yeah, that's
Let's
always the
optimizing.
question. Whenever your manager has some things that they really appreciate from you and some that they may not notice, or other people could do, you want to find a nice way to say, I'd love to do more of this high value work for you and help you hit your goals, but I'm kind of burdened by this grunt work.
Yeah.
Is there a way we can shift some of that so that I can do more of the stuff you like?
Yeah.
And if you need to, when they ask you to do something, you can sort of give them the, well, I'd love to do that, but I have all this other sort of stuff. Where could we move that so that I can do what you want?
Yeah.
Because at that moment, you have them where they want something and you're kind of saying a soft no, I'd love to, but I can't.
Right.
But I could if. And that's your leverage point where they're like, oh, you could if. Okay, let me see if I can make that happen.
Yeah. We've got a meaty one here. So
good.
A couple more. Loving this so far. So we've got time for a couple more questions, maybe one or two. So going back to performance management, Megan's wondering, how can HR leaders effectively influence senior leaders and execs who don't consistently practice foundational performance management or followed like a shared process? For example, what levers actually drive the buy-in, especially when inconsistency leads to inequitable employee experiences, disengagement, and stalled career development?
So I love this question, Megan, but your question is, how do you get a senior executive to do something they don't want to do, and they may not value, and that's tough. Let's just acknowledge it's tough, and then we'll talk about how we might do it. I think you have a couple levers. You can try the company policy lever if like the CEO or somebody actually cares to enforce it. Maybe you can get the CFO or somebody to push on. Basically, do they have anything forcing them to do it right that you can lean into? That's one way. I don't like the club, the stick, as much as the carrot. The carrots would be trying to show them what better outcome they could get, and also how can you make the process lighter. So remember, human resources can be, for a line leader, human resources can be a great support or a big pile of overhead and paperwork. And I know not super popular with HR professionals, but I'm not paid. In the end, I'm not paid or employed for anything about HR compliance. I'm paid and employed to get a certain business result.
Yeah.
And to the degree HR helps me do that, I love it. And to the degree HR is taking up my time and not helping me get there, I don't love it. And of course, these things aren't perfectly clear because a great workforce is what will get me there. But do I think HR is helping me create that great workforce? That's the point you have to sell, which is, hey, if we do better performance management, you're going to have a better team that's going to get more done. I'm not pushing you to do these equitable reviews or have this process for a bunch of paperwork. I'll take care of as much of the paperwork as I can to make it lightweight for you. I'm telling you that you're going to get better business results if we give your team consistent feedback and fair performance reviews that they believe in. That's going to increase team morale, increase people's motivation, because they're going to be able to see that hard work turns into acknowledgement in a fair way. And I'm here to get you a team that wants to bust its butt because it can succeed. And so you're painting that vision again of, this isn't an HR process I'm beating you to comply with. It's something that's going to get you business value.
Yeah.
Coming back to the thing I said earlier, though, you can't control other people, just like you can't control your boss. Yeah. And that senior executive, HR is a very polarizing function in that some people have had negative experiences with human resources that have colored their experience, and they're never going to get away from those. If I wanted to be negative about human resources, I one time had a very negative experience that I'll share, and it was very personal. And so it does make me suspicious of certain HR professionals to this day. And specifically, an employee filed a complaint about me, which is totally fine. I mean, it sucked, but it's fine.
Yeah.
However, the investigator for that complaint, didn't tell me that there was a complaint. She just said, "Hey, can I have a meeting with you?" And I walked in this meeting, and she started asking me very strange questions, and eventually came to light that there had been a complaint that she was investigating, but none of this was transparent.
Right.
And when I ask about this at the end, I'm like, this process kind of sucked. You didn't tell me what was coming. You just asked for a meeting. I walk in here. I find that I'm being investigated. That's a bad experience for me. Her answer was, well, we do that on purpose so you don't have time to concoct a story. Like and her story was, we're ambushing you so that you don't have a prepared story.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, like, from then on, I've been like, oh, interesting. Like, investigations are not aimed at finding the truth, at least from my perspective. They're aimed at catching me.
Yeah.
In this. And so my illustration is, as an HR leader, as an HR business partner, remember that some of the people who've gone before you may have colored your business partner's experience, and you may have some trust earning to do.
Because uphill.
Yeah, I can definitely, I could take away from that, like, oh, I always need to be on my guard around human resources.
Yeah.
Footnote, since I brought up the story, even this investigator who was looking to catch me concluded that I had done nothing wrong. Important
notes. Yeah.
But well, it was a case of a misunderstanding and a mismatch, which is also often true, right? Like, I had said something that had really offended an employee. No intention, no ill will, maybe careless wording, and also very different work styles.
Yeah.
But, the result of investigation, guilty, not guilty, didn't do anything to heal the problem. So
it's those I mean, that's the tough part of HR, is getting in the middle of those and balancing it in a way that you're managing it for both the the employer, and the employees involved in this situation.
Absolutely.
There's one more question here.
Sure.
That's actually feels like a good one to kind of end off on. I want to make sure folks have enough time to get to their next meeting here, and really appreciated your time today as well.
Of course.
This is just more of a high level. So how do you continue to kind of keep up to date on all things people and management and leadership, like current philosophies and relevant topics? Who are the people you're following? What are the things that you're reading and enjoying these days?
So first, it's incredibly tough to keep up on stuff, because there's a lot of change. There's a lot going on. My main mechanism isn't one that others can use exactly, which is I coach executives.
Right.
And so I'm hearing about their problems and struggles. This changed in my workplace. We're bringing in this tool. We have this new policy. I have this problem person. How do I reorganize? So I'm getting hit with their problems and struggles every day. And so that connects me to what's changing in their environments. And I'm getting to see across many different environments. There are a set of people, certainly, I follow online. A lot of them that would be more known would be famous authors that have good thoughts on the changing work environment. You look at someone like a Brene Brown, who's well known, possibly Simon Sinek. These are people who are studying the work environment and writing about it. At sort of a lower level, people in my peer set, Amazon's global head of emotional intelligence, of EQ, is a guy named Rich Hua, H-U-A. He's kind of a sleeper expert in that he writes about emotional intelligence in leadership. He built, I don't know, he's taught emotional intelligence to several 100,000 people at Amazon and over 1 million people in general. So you're looking for leaders like that that are working hands-on on the skills or the problems, and follow a few of them. Bottom line is, read. You have to pay attention to what other people are saying and experiencing. And I think that's, what is your information diet? Are you doom scrolling? Are you reading with a purpose? We can spend a lot of time watching funny cat videos and not end up with much out of it.
Yeah.
You have to choose that you want to spend your cat video time on listening to the thought leaders. And I really think you can find your own thought leaders. There's far more people with good ideas than there is time to consume them. So it's really just turning off the voices that are wasting your time and listening to the few that make you go, oh, wow.
Yeah. Truly
I'd like to be one of those.
Your feed. No, this has been great. Lots of great questions. Would just love any final thoughts as you kind of like wrap this all up.
Yeah. Final thoughts. I guess I'd give it a category, since we talked some about human resources and the HR function. As a business leader, I'd say figure out how to make your HR business partner truly the business partner. Bring them into what your goals are and say, hey, I don't just need you to be my HR administrator. I actually need you to understand, we have human resources, we have personnel to get to this goal. And I need you to help me get there. As the business partner, I think you earn a lot of trust with leaders by leaning much more into what can HR do to help you succeed, and trying to minimize this sort of, here's our list of things to comply with.
Yeah.
Because I never got paid, again, in the end, I never get paid for compliance.
Yeah.
Harsh truth, particularly in smaller companies, but even in any company, is if I have really good results, my management will overlook whatever paperwork I haven't done. And if I don't have good enough results, they won't keep me because all my paperwork was in order. So, obviously there are limits to this. I'm not saying allow unethical things or neglect, but just understand that difference, that I have to be, as an executive, I have to be results driven. So as an HR business partner, I need you to be results driven to some degree about, look, what are we all actually doing here together, not just what's our process.
Amazing. Ethan, thank you so much for your time today. Folks in the chat, thanks so much for your awesome questions. There's a couple that we didn't get a chance to get to. Sarah from Workleap and myself will be posting them in the leadership channel in the Slack group. And thanks again, Ethan. Appreciate your time. Thanks,
totally my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the invitation. These were fun. I love anytime I get to answer those questions. And as a final caveat for people, I guess I'd say, remember, since I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt, make your own decision about what I said. If it makes sense to you, use it. And if it doesn't, I'm not offended.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks again, everyone.